Hello and welcome to Kevin Creatives! Check out my custom HG God Gundam, and boy oh boy, I'm excited for this series. I'm a big fan of doing model kits and painting and sculpting and sanding and panel lines and all that good stuff, decals. I'm very excited to begin this series with the HG God Gundam, one of my favorite Gundam designs. I don't know if I'll say it's my favorite mobile suit design overall, but in terms of Gundam, it's definitely up there. Really love it. I'm a very big fan of the Super Robo genre and the Brave series, and I think G Gundam, Mobile Fighter G Gundam, does a really good job of kind of showing that off in the Gundam aesthetic. Because Gundam's typically more militaristic, but I think G Gundam does a good job of just making it a bit more kid-friendly, a little bit more fun. It's still got the typical war stuff, you know, they fight over the planet versus the colonies and blah, 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 but overall, great series with just cool robots fighting cool robots. That's all we need at the end of the day. That's all I look for. The HG God Gundam, yeah, it's dated, super dated. It came out in 2010. I mean, here we are 14 years later. You're gonna feel like it's 14 years old. What really got me into wanting to do this kit was the fact that, I'm not gonna lie, the box art got me. That's some good looking box art. Whoever did the graphic design for it sold me. I saw that and I thought, okay, that I could see on my shelf. That's a cool looking paint job design and all that. So part B was the terrible wings. Oh, these wings are awful. What is up with those gaps? This is a model kit. Why do we got hollow gaps? It's a model kit. No. I don't care for that. It drives me nuts. On a model kit, there should be no hollow gaps. That is the waffle technique is reserved for Transformers. I don't know why we were doing this on a kit that's supposed to be, you know, there could be a piece that you could just plug into that. They could have just made it two pieces that you clasp together and then, no. Or they could have made it solid. I don't know. What's the gaps? They could have just made it one solid piece. It's already one piece to begin with, like the white parts. What was so different about that? They did the white parts in one piece, and then the red parts, they did the hollow gaps. I don't know. But I'm not gonna lie. I saw that, and I thought, I want to get good at this. I want to learn all the aspects of modeling. Painting's the biggest factor, but there's more to it. Seam lines are important. Gaps, you know, filling in these gaps is important. I want to learn how to do that. I want to learn how to do customs and stuff one day. You know, you never know. So I was like, all right, this is a good challenge. This is a good way to test myself. So that's kind of why I decided to get this kit. And there's a lot of kits I think like that. A lot of the times I look at the flaws and they kind of excite me. I've noticed over the years. I kind of get excited when I see some of the flaws. It makes me think, all right, well, how can we fix this? What can we do? This is a challenge. This is a test. I think I did pretty good. 99%. I mean, if I had to score it as an actual test grade, I'd say 99%. So what I did was I filled in the gaps with the putty, and then I sanded it down. But I used a 600 grit paper to sand it down. And what I should have done was after that, went over it again with a 2000 grit paper. That's what I started doing now, is I sand things down with 600. I find that 600 is a good grit. It's a good solid grit just to get everything even and flat. And then I'll go over it again with a 2000. I don't feel the need to incrementally go up. Just grab a 2000 and then just go over enough to get everything polished, so that way it blends well. And I wish I had done that here. I had just used a 600. I had a 2000. I was just being kind of in a hurry and not really thinking things through all the way. So unfortunately, I didn't go over it with the 2000. Because what ended up happening was I painted it. I was outside painting the primer and I saw that it wasn't even. So I just went back inside real quick, gave it a once over with the 600, and then came back outside, painted it with the primer. Boom, there it is. It was perfect. So primered, it was perfect because, you know, everything's in one solid gray color. And then when I went over it with the colors, even there, it looked perfect. I have pictures on Instagram where you can go see them. They look great. I was super happy. It looked clean as hell. And then unfortunately, once I gave it a flat coat, I think the flatness kind of separated it. And you can now, from certain angles, see the distinction between the putty and the plastic. That's on me. I learned. That's how you learn. Hey, that's how you learn. Still looks good overall. 99% like I said, but it's just unfortunate that when I just went over with that top coat, it just kind of, I couldn't help but notice that it made it a tinge more noticeable. Oh well, the rest of the kit looks amazing. I have to say, other than that snafu with the wings, the rest of the kit looks like it jumped out of the screen. I love it. I love the design of this kit. Can't argue. That looks great. I love the fact that the core lander is a separate thing. I could definitely see, like, even I was impressed. For 2010, we're getting the burning finger effects, and we're getting a separate core lander that actually functions and transforms and combines. I was impressed. I thought that was cool. Appreciated that. I thought that was another challenge. A 1/144th scale little vehicle. Tiny little car type vehicle. Wonderful challenge. Let's see if I can do a good job. I think I crushed it. I don't think I was able to get the core lander out. Once it was in, I was like, all right, I don't want to mess with the paint. Typically, that's how I go about it. Once something is combined or transformed, I don't like to mess with it. That just ruins the paint. I pick a pose and it's kind of there. Very rarely do I shift things up. I tried some hand painting with the Vulcans. I figured, all right, the white bits on the shoulder are going to cover up the Vulcan, so if I do a bad job, you're not going to know about it. And that's typically what ended up happening. My hand painting has improved since this kit. This was a test. This was a test for me, and I learned. And I covered it up with those little white shoulder bits, and we're just going to leave them there. If I try to remove stuff, it's going to ruin the paint, so why bother? That was the intent to begin with, and I'm okay with that. Now, I want to talk about these metallic colors I've added on as well to the kit, because I really feel like that is kind of where I land on my style of gunpla and painting in general and just modeling. First, I was doing everything with just the standard opaque colors, and then doing the inner frame with the metallics to kind of break things up, as well as sometimes the weapons. I started picking out parts that could be gold or silver or copper or, something else instead of just being yellow or gray or something like that. Boy, oh boy, does that make a difference. I really feel like this is a standout. Don't get me wrong, I've seen plenty of awesome customs where everything's just done as the standard color should be, but I really like the gold accent I added. I didn't want to do only gold. That's the distinction. I wanted to make sure that there was a balance of doing the opaque colors that it should be versus metallic colors that I want to add in. I don't want to offset things too much, because if everything was just gold, if these vents were gold as well as the V-fin, I think that would look great. It would definitely have a very high premium feel to it. It's just not what I'm going for. I've seen people do gold V-fins and they look good, but I feel like unless a majority of the kit is in metallics, it doesn't work. I think for my case, it wouldn't have worked if I had done the vents and the V-fins and gold, as well as the Vulcans, just because most of the kit isn't metallic. It's just the inner frame and then a couple accents. And then if I had done all of the yellow and there would have been no yellow parts, just all gold instead of the yellow, I feel like the balance would have been off. So that's part of the trickiness of deciding on what's going to be what, is you got to think about the end result and the whole thing. You got to think of it as a whole, not just the parts alone. So for the color scheme, I haven't done much in the way of highlighting up until this point. It had been pretty much just a lot of pre-shading, where I would prime things up in typically gray, pick out a dark color, only do the edges with the pre-shading, like you see, and then paint over that. I've since grown out of that. I don't think I like that anymore. It's a bit too noticeable. This might have been where I started changing things up a little bit in that regard. So instead of doing that, what I did was I primed everything up in gray, picked out the colors that I wanted it to be. So I wanted this to be a certain blue and I wanted this to be a certain red, right? So I painted everything as I wanted them to be. Then I took a brighter color than that and went on top of it to highlight it. So instead of it being a dark color and then going over with the color I wanted to be on top of it, I started with the color I wanted to be as the base and then just picked a brighter color to highlight it. I think it really worked. I was concerned, I'm not gonna lie, I was concerned at first. When I first painted it and I was looking at pictures, I was like, ooh, I don't know. But once everything came together, I was like, oh, this is it. This is it. This looks good. So I'm very happy with it. Things blended together so much better. One of the factors I think about when deciding on what to do with a kit is, what are the details that are already included by the manufacturer, Bandai in this case. I look at the kit and I see that on the swords, they have these separate pieces. I look at the panel lines. That's a big factor. I look at the panel lines and see how they segment the parts and how I can use that to add accents and colors, so that way it kind of makes the kit pop a bit more. Take the swords, they look like katana hilts, so I took them, looked at katana hilts, and they have these cool gold accents on them, so I added that on. There you go. And that's just little things you can think about when you're working on your kit. You don't have to go exactly based off of the box art, but you don't need to go crazy and come up with your own color scheme too. There's no need for either. You can kind of find your own happy middle. The way I look at it is, I want to make something that I saw in the show. That's typically where my head is at. I like the show, I think it's cool, and I want something that represents that. So that's what I'm trying to create. And I think I did a good job. I look at this, and between Bandai's design engineering and my paint job, I really feel like this is a knockout. This guy looks like he stepped right out of the screen, and if it was 144 times bigger, he'd be on the rampage. I really like how the burning fingers came out as well. Since day one, I've been experimenting with fluorescence and how to create glowing effects. I don't think I've ever been satisfied fully, but I think these are a good step in the right direction. Basically, what I do with my fluorescence is I start with white primer. I want to make sure it's going to come out nice and bright because, you know, that's the whole point. It's supposed to glow. So we start with the white as the primer base. Then I went over with orange fluorescence, so that way still bright, glows, and then you put it under a black light, kicks ass, looks amazing. So I did that to kind of highlight it, give it some layers, went over it again with yellow. And I think what I might have even done is when I tried highlighting it with the yellow, I might have even added in little drops of white into the paint as well, just to continue to highlight it and create those layers that create depth. Layers of colors is where you're going to get a big part of your depth. And that's just not with model kits, that's just with drawing and coloring and painting as well. The more layers you have, the deeper it is, obviously, you know? Model kits are like onions. They have layers. You just gotta think like that. Think of a model kit as an onion. The vents there I did in the metallic gunmetal type color. I think I just made it up. I don't ever use gunmetal straight out of the bottle anymore. I've tried and it almost just looks black. It looks like a metallic black, which is not what I'm going for. I don't want metallic black. I want a steel, you know, a titanium. I don't know. I want it to look like metal. I want to make it look like, you know, a hard metal. Typically I'll take gunmetal and a little bit of silver, mix them together. That's how I go about it. I've seen other people, what they do is I think they'll take silver and mix a little bit of black into it. That works as well, but it doesn't matter. I figured gunmetal as a base is already fine, and then I just brighten it up a little bit of silver mixed in. And I think that's what I did here, and it came out great. Love it. It looks like a piece of metal. It looks like I could take this and smack you in the head, and it'd be like die cast, and it would hurt. Mission accomplished. What are some of the little things that are not too complicated but make a big impact? And that's one of them. If you want your kit to stand out, honestly, just the simple changing up the inside of the thruster to make it stand out from the standard gunmetal of the outside, huge difference. Red, blue, yellow, doesn't matter. Make it flow with the kit and you get some good results. So what I do for the eyes of my kits is paint them whatever color I want them to be. In this case, I wanted it to be a nice, healthy, metallic green. That was a lacquer, so I do all my paints in lacquer. So I use a Tester's flat black. They make a nice flat black that's enamel, so I go over it again with that. Then I take enamel thinner, and then I carefully only get rid of the flat black over the actual eyes so that everything around it is still black and it separates it. So you got a nice smooth color, smooth paint, and it looks great. I've tried doing hand painting of the eyes and it never comes out nice. I don't know why. I can do hand painting on other certain areas, and that's pretty much it. So I'm gonna keep doing this series in the future. I am gonna have to trim things down a bit. I don't know what this audio in this video is gonna seem like. This is the first one and I hope it's great. We're gonna keep doing more of these. I freaking love doing model kits. I really enjoy it, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.